Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be looking at Sigma lenses on Leica cameras. This is the third of a three-part mini-series from my trip to Poland. Same city, the same models, but a different lens on the same cameras. I'll be reviewing the Sigma lens with my Leica hat on, and so comparing it to what I normally see from Leica M mount lenses, although in this case this is an L mount lens. I tested the lens on the crop sensor mirrorless Leica CL and the full frame mirrorless Leica SL. Stay tuned. Hello, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So yes, today's something a bit different for you. It'll be interesting to see whether or not you can tell a difference between photos shot with a Sigma lens compared to all the photos I normally shoot with Leica lenses and often Voigtlander lenses. So in this video I'm looking at this lens. This is a Sigma 24mm f2 DGDN L mount lens. But before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe if you've not yet subscribed for a chance of winning in my monthly giveaways. This video will not cover the usual lens spec because there are so many Sigma videos out there already. So instead I'll look at the Sigma lens from a Leica standpoint. I'll compare vaguely a Sigma lens to an M mount lens, and then we'll look at lots of photos. We can look at the character of the lens, and then at the end I'll say whether or not I can recommend this lens to Leica shooters or to anybody else that may wish to use this lens. So I guess the first question you may have is, why am I testing a Sigma lens? But maybe more specifically, why am I testing a 24mm Sigma lens when I tend to shoot mostly portraits? I was actually interested in this lens originally to shoot videos for you guys, to maybe have this as a new vlogging lens. Even though I don't do much kind of handheld vlogging, I thought maybe I could do that for you guys in the future. So that's when I found the lens originally, and then I reached out to Sigma, and Sigma kindly sent me this lens to test. So it is only on loan, and it's not a sponsored video. Number one, for video, that was my interest. Number two, when I do my Leica workshops, many of the guys bring Sigma art lenses like this monster. Sigma art lenses are always massive. So the reason number two, I wanted to see why my students were using these lenses. Just to give you some background, people that usually like SL, like SL2, or even Lumix users like the Lumix S5 that I use for video, the Lumix S1, S1R, all of those cameras, these are all L mount cameras. And so Leica shooters often spend their money on the camera, and then maybe they cannot afford Leica SL lenses, so then they look at other options for L mount lenses. The most common options for L mount alliance is SL lenses from Leica. You've got Panasonic lenses and you've got Sigma lenses. Sigma lenses seem to be more popular of those two. So I wanted to see how they performed. Reason number three, these lenses are reasonably cheap in Leica terms. So I'll give you some prices later on, but they are much cheaper than Leica, and they're even cheaper than Voigtlander. And option number four, they offer autofocus. Some of you Leica shooters that are M shooters struggle with your vision. I don't have 20/20 eyesight, so I can totally relate. And I do wear glasses for driving, but basically as we get older, our eyesight often gets worse. And so our beloved M mount cameras are not quite as accurate when we are using them as they used to be. So for that reason, often M shooters then go to SL and get autofocus lenses. So this video will introduce you to autofocus lenses on your Leica, say SL or CL camera, and give you an idea of how these lenses render, so that if you are struggling with your M in terms of not being able to focus and hit focus every time, this could be an option for you if you're using it, as I say, an SL, SL2, or SL2S or CL. And talking of the Leica CL, the fifth reason I was interested in this lens is, although 24th sounds a bit strange in terms of a bit too wide for portraits on full frame, if you then attach it to the Leica CL with a 1.5 crop factor, and suddenly you have a 36mm equivalent f2 lens, which is actually much more useful for portraits. And so with that said, let's have a look at some photos. I've grouped character and kind of lens ability kind of into one set of photos. So number one, the ability to do close focus, and this then ties in with product shots. So here are some, I guess you could call them product shots or camera pin-up type shots that I took with the 24 f2 Sigma DGDN lens. The great thing about this lens compared to say M lenses, if you're an M shooter, you can get much closer for kind of these detailed product shots, and that then allows you to blow out the background even with a 24mm lens. Number two, this lens is sharp. It was sharp from f2, and it has a very modern, clean look across all the images. These product shots show the sharpness close up, and then these wider shots show the sharpness kind of corner to corner. I didn't pixel peep to the extreme, but this lens does look super sharp, pretty much corner to corner, and it will get very slightly sharper if you stop the lens down. Number three, contrast. The same as the sharpness, this lens has great contrast, and that helps add to the modern kind of apparent sharpness look of this lens. All of these photos were shot with RAW, and then I just applied my Leica SL presets, either colour or black and white, to all the images. You can find a link to the Leica SL preset pack below this video. Number four, this lens has natural looking colours, and you can either make it more vibrant or less vibrant depending on what preset, in my case, that you apply to the photos. So I use either more vibrant presets, such as these colourful looking shots, or here this is my less vibrant looking preset, this old looking boat, and maybe more of a slight filmic look, if you want to call it that. Number 5, this lens has a beautiful glow, and it's one of the unexpected features about this lens which I really enjoyed. If I just stop the photos for a second, if you can see up here in my video, this is the glow from using a Leica Summicron R 50mm f2 version 1 lens. I use this lens particularly for video because it gives me this flare or kind of glow pattern around lighting. So if we now go back to the Sigma photos, if you look at these street lights, you can see the really beautiful glow pattern around the light. And then this is the same throughout the f-stop range, more or less. Even if you stop the lens down a little bit, you still get a really nice glow, and I really like that. The downside of that is, number 6, if you like sun stars, this is not a sun star lens. And even if you stop the lens down, you're not really going to get much for a sun star. Number 7, bokeh and bokeh balls. This lens will give you very round, perfect bokeh balls. Some people love that. Some people prefer the kind of the squashed, imperfect bokeh balls. That's what I show in a lot of my vintage lens reviews. Again, talking of bokeh and bokeh balls, you can actually get some quite nice subject background separation, even though it's a 24mm lens, if you get close to your subject. Here is me getting in close on details so I could then blow out the background. And number 8, the low light ability. This is an autofocus lens, and I found that although I'm not really used to autofocus, I tend to much prefer manual focus lenses, so it was a bit alien to me. The autofocus worked most of the time during my trip in Poland, but it was missing during some of the night shoots, which I guess is understandable. With this lens being sharp at f2 and giving the glow look, it is really quite beautiful for kind of low light night photography or kind of evening photography. Because we had the snow in Poland, we had kind of pinky purple skies, and this lens really kind of, I think, showed the scene better than perhaps some of my other lenses could have done. So well done Sigma in this regard. I thought it worked really well for the night shots. So what about portraits? If you've seen this channel before, you'll know I tend to shoot models or female models. And so how is this lens for portrait photography? I know it's a 24mm lens, but that doesn't stop me trying to take portraits with it. So first, here's me using the Leica SL full frame camera, and here's one of the behind the scenes clips from one of my Patreon videos. At 24mm, this lens is a bit limited for the photos that I normally do, but it doesn't stop you taking pictures. What about on the Leica CL? So these photos are now shot with the 24mm Sigma lens on the Leica CL, shooting on the rooftop with another model. If you want to see any of my lighting videos, be sure to check out Patreon, link below in the description. But this is me using flash and then the 24mm lens for doing kind of half body, full body and headshots. And to finish, these portraits are shot with the Leica CL with the 24mm lens back in the apartment. So that gives you, as I say, the 36mm equivalent. To test the lens a bit further, one of the days I walked to the kind of the old docklands from where I was staying, and the snow was making everything look beautiful anyway. And I took both the CL and the Leica SL. Here is me doing a bit of almost urbex photography. So I love the look of the old warehouses. So because some of the windows are broken, I could put my camera through the window and do some kind of inside the window shot, and I was kind of interested to see how it worked. The lens being sharp at f2 gave really kind of super sharp edge to edge photos, even though it was kind of pretty dark inside the warehouses. And then if you follow me on social media, you probably know that I also shoot a lot of film, and I enjoy shooting film. And so in 2020, pretty much 1 year prior, I was in the same place shooting with a Leica 3 Barnett camera. So these photos are shot with a Leica 3 Barnett camera on film. You've got this boat shot, you've got kind of the driveway with the factories on both sides. And then these photos are now shot with the Sigma. The same boats, the same road from a slightly different angle, and a few other road shots. I just enjoy kind of composing the different buildings and whatnot. But let me know in the comments, do you prefer the film photos or the digital photos? Okay, what about lens size? So this lens is actually quite a good size for an autofocus lens. It's not the smallest Sigma DGDN lens. This is actually one of 6 lenses. They've got the 24 f2, the 24 3.5, the 35 f2, the 45 2.8, the 60 f2, and the 90 2.8. These are all metal and glass primes like you'd probably get from, say, Voigtlander kind of lenses that we're used to seeing on this channel, but they have autofocus. They do have an aperture scale, but they don't have a focus ring. I'll come on to that at the end in the summary. But here we have a 50mm 1.4 Sigma art lens, and then next to that, half the size and probably more than half the weight, is the 24mm f2 DGDN contemporary lens. I much prefer the size of these new DGDN lenses. So size, Sigma versus Sigma, the size is very good, but what about what we used to? So on this channel we look at a lot of Voigtlander and a lot of Leica M mount lenses mostly, and then I use M mount lenses onto the SL or CL camera via an M to L adapter. So it is pretty much like for like. The only difference is it's manual focus versus autofocus. And you can see if I compare my 28mm f2 Voigtlander Ultron version 2 to the Sigma 24 f2, so they're reasonably similar. The Voigtlander is less than half the size and weight from kind of looking at the lens. If we actually give you some numbers, the Sigma lens weighs 365 grams or 12.9 ounces, and the Voigtlander Ultron 28 version 2, see that video, weighs 230 grams or 8.1 ounces. So what's that? That's like a third lighter, and it's at least half the size. And then in terms of price, how does the price compare to other prime lenses? The Sigma 24 f2 DGDN, the L mount version is £549 or $639. But you can also buy it in Sony mount for those of you who are Sony shooters. That's cheaper than the Voigtlander. The Voigtlander 28 f2, £699. So what's that? $800 to $900. I'll write it on the screen. And it's autofocus. It does everything except being small and kind of maybe less character because it's a modern lens. And generally, the more modern it is and the more perfect, the less character from my taste. Except it has the glow, which is, I guess, its character. So with all that said, what's my conclusion? Can I recommend this lens? Yes, if you want autofocus and you like modern perfect rendering. So any of you guys that shoot Apo lenses, I raved about the 35 f2 Voigtlander Apo. I raved about the 50mm f2 Voigtlander Apo. If you love perfect and getting every pixel shot from your sensor, and say you shoot with a high resolution sensor such as the SL2 Leica, you will like this lens. So pros. So I guess number 1, sharp. Number 2, the glow look. Number 3, it's got autofocus. So for anybody with less than perfect 20/20 vision eyesight. Number 4, it's cheaper than a manual focus Voigtlander lens, and it'd be much cheaper than a Leica SL lens. And number 5, even though it is only an f2 lens compared to the art lenses, which tend to be 1.4 lenses, we don't really need 1.4 lenses unless we shoot film. And these are L mount lenses, so you can't shoot film with this lens anyway. So I think f2 is more than good enough. So I would tell people, if I had students asking me questions, I would recommend an f2 DGDN Sigma lens over the big fat heavy Sigma art lenses. In terms of cons, con number 1, biggest one for me would probably be size, because I enjoy the smaller Voigtlander lenses. Number 2, one thing I really don't like about some of the modern lenses is I feel really uneasy buying a lens that doesn't have a proper focus controls. So with the Voigtlander, you've got proper aperture scale, proper focus ring with your hyperfocal distance and all that on it. This lens is better than many of the modern lenses because it does have a proper aperture scale with nice aperture clicks, and it's beautifully made. However, there's no proper focus ring. It's like a focus by wire design. Number 3, because I have a strong interest in shooting film, I'm not too keen on spending money on L mount lenses because I can only shoot them on digital. My main interest is film, not digital. If I buy Voigtlander lenses or Leica lenses, I can use these on my Leica film cameras and my Leica digital cameras. Number 4, I enjoy manual focus lenses. Cameras are getting easier and easier to take photos as it is. In terms of digital cameras, if you're using an autofocus lens on an auto everything camera, you may as well just kind of get some AI program to take your picture for you on your iPhone. There's like, what's the fun in everything being automatic? There's zero thrill in that for me personally. I want to shoot manual focus lenses on a digital camera because at least I have some input into the final photo. Nothing against anybody that likes that style, and I'm definitely not anti-recommending it for people that are struggling with a Leica M camera. I think if you can't hit focus with a Leica M camera, then autofocus is a no-brainer, and perhaps sell an M camera and buy a SL camera. And if you don't know, Sigma have also got a full frame mirrorless camera that goes with their full frame autofocus L mount lenses. Maybe I'll review that in a later video. Let me know in the comments if you want me to try and review a Sigma FP, a digital camera. And so in summary, did the lens impress me? Yes, it allowed me to take the same photos more or less that I could have taken with any of my other lenses. The rendering was just probably slightly more modern than the lenses that I normally use. A massive thank you to Sigma UK for letting me test this lens. If you like this video, please smash the like button, and as always, a massive thanks to my patrons. And don't forget to subscribe so you've got a chance of winning in future giveaways. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.